So everyone, welcome to the Power Play with CJ. I want to focus in on the Toronto Maple Leafs as part of our season previews. A very exciting team going on up in Toronto. Sheena, I have not had a chance to say a lot over the last few years, but the infusion of youth, whether it's obviously number one overall pick Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, who absolutely torched the OHL, last season in the regular season and the playoffs, and William Nylander, Casper Kapanen, and there's just so much young, exciting talent going on up there that it's hard not to look at this team and be like, all right, like I'm gonna tune in and watch the squad play every chance I get, because Brendan Shanahan and Lou Lamoriello really in the last couple of years begun a nice turnaround and got them on the path to relevancy, which is obviously a good thing for a team that's fallen on tough times over the last decade or so, in the mecca of hockey. So we'll see what kind of changes come about next year on the ice, but one thing's for sure, they'll be a lot more entertaining to watch. So, let's look at some of the veterans that are coming back before we talk about the young kids. Nazem Kadri, there's always going to be trade rumors around him. I think that's bullshit. I think Nazem Kadri's a hell of a player, and I think the Leafs are lucky to have a guy like him. It's always been kind of a weird relationship, but, again, he's a great player, plain and simple. Leo Komarov, I think, played in the All-Star game last year. I think he'll be better suited in that third line role. And he'll benefit from having the kids in the lineup. I think he'll benefit from having him around as a veteran leader to kind of be a steadying presence in their bottom six, or middle six, probably the best way to describe it. And again, they've got plenty of interesting pieces. What's Tyler Bozak, another guy who will always have trade rumors surrounded him. JVR, Peter Holland. I can go on and on and on, but bottom line is, the veterans are going to be phased out the next couple of years, but they'll be given ample opportunity to play, minutes to count, because they don't want to put the young kids in situations where they'll be in over their head, going out against the team's top lines, killing penalties, all that shit. I think down the line, Austin Matthews will be able to do all that, but not right now. And I think, the more attention to detail that gets paid, which is one of Babcock's strengths, I think, the better the Leafs will be in the long run. So that's something intriguing to think about. I'm also, before we talk about the big name young kids, I've talked to this kid ad nauseum, Connor Carrick. I like his game, and I think I signed him to a very, very, very fair contract, and he could potentially be a top four defenseman, making less than $1 million a year. So does it say a lot about the weaknesses on the Leafs blue line? Yes, but he's still very serviceable, very good offensively. So again, a situation to keep an eye on as the camps get underway. All right, we've talked about the old guys. That's cool. Let's talk about the up-and-comers. Austin Matthews is going to be the team's first legitimate number one center since Matt Sundin took his talents to Vancouver 7 or 8 years ago. Holy shit. And having a guy like that, that can, down the line, be able to take all the big face-offs, be able to score the big goals, facilitate. I mean, his wrist shot's Sakic-esque. I don't throw that around often, but and having that big 6'2" number one center, he's a lanky kid now. But he's going to fill out his frame and be able to do battle against the other elite centers in the East on a night in, night out basis. So, again, he's going to be the key to this franchise getting back to being a legitimate contender and possibly breaking our 50-year Stanley Cup-less drought. Joining him again, I've talked about Marner. I've said this many times, a couple times anyway. Marner and Matthews have the potential to be the Eastern Conference Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane. With Matthews playing Toews' role as the number one, all-around center, and Marner playing Kane's role as the dynamic, shifty, playmaking offensive wing. Even though Kane and Toews really don't play on the same line, people forget that in Chicago. So having those guys out there, I think, will worth buying a ticket to. And again, Nylander, he showed what he could do last year. I'm a big William Nylander fan. I think he's going to have, a very big impact on this team. Maybe 25 goals in his first full year. He is Calder eligible. Oh shit! Kind of forgot that. Played 22 games. The cutoff is 25, so he'll be eligible for the Calder Trophy next year. So between Marner, Matthews, and Nylander, it's gonna be plenty of votes to go around for Rookie of the Year, and then obviously factoring guys on other teams. I mean, those two Finnish wingers are pretty good, and Dylan Strome down in Arizona is excellent. So very good crop of young talent in the league, and the Leafs have a lot of it. And we'll see how much of an impact they have next season. And there's going to be growing pains, but I think in the long term, they'll be key building blocks to get this franchise back to where it wants to be. Biggest new guy that got coming in is Matt Martin. Outside of the aforementioned guys, biggest free agent acquisition. I think he's a solid bottom six forward. I think he'll open up space for some of the bigger named offensive studs. But I do think Toronto overpaid for him a bit, and they got Prost coming in on a PTO too. So the Bash brothers give you some physicality to go with your some meat and potatoes to go with your veggies, I guess. But we'll see how it happens with Prost. I like Prost as a player, so we'll see how that shakes itself up. And again, Martin, like him as a player, just not a huge fan of that contract. But obviously, Lou Lamoriello knows a bit more about hockey than I do. So that forward core is pretty good. And I don't know where exactly. I mean, do you open the season Kadri, Matthews, Bozak down the middle? It's a season they finally trade Tyler Bozak. This is the season they, finally trade Joffrey Lupul, who we don't know what his injury status is. Or we know his status; he's always going to be hurt, but let's keep an eye on that. But that's our forward core. On defense, Morgan Rielly is the truth. I mean, I don't know what else needs to be said about how talented that kid is, and how he's going to be an anchor on their blue line, the way Matthews and company are going to be anchored up front for the next decade or so. So again, they got him re-signed. He's going to be in Toronto for a long time, and that was a very, very smart move because young defensemen like him, quite frankly, do not grow on trees. And if they do grow on trees, can we plant one in Don Sweeney's yard? And then Jay Gardner, solid player. Matt Hunwick, former Bruin, nice guy to have in your bottom three for your defense. Brought back Roman Polak. He is what he is. Frank Corrado showed flashes last year. So blue line isn't exactly going to put the fear of God into you, but it doesn't suck that much either. I mean, it's. I'd rather have this blue line than the Boston Bruins blue line. Let's put it that way, which isn't saying a whole lot. In net, Freddie Anderson got hurt in the Olympic qualifiers. I know I made it sound like the sky was falling. He'll be ready for the start of the season, so that's good. Jonas Enroth is backing him up. Obviously, Anderson was one of their big off-season acquisitions, outside of Matthews and Matt Martin and guys like that. A little bit of difference between Austin Matthews and Matt Martin. I admit that. So I think he'll do great as the number one in Toronto, and I think Enroth is a solid backup to spell him, when he needs it, and having Garrett Sparks and some of the other guys waiting in the wings, I think is definitely a net positive for Toronto. And the other thing is that, prior to them signing Enroth in July, they're saying, Sparks will back up Anderson. I think for a young goalie like Sparks at 23 years old, he's best suited getting as many reps as possible in the AHL. So, we'll see between him and Bibeau, who also played a lot for the Marlies last year. I think having those two guys is definitely a good thing. Down there, getting some reps, getting time in net, and helping to have a long-term plan in net as much as they do up front and to a very large degree on defense. So again, going to be a very fun team to watch next year, and we'll see what happens. They will not be a playoff team. Sorry, fans in Toronto, but they're on the right path, and we'll see how it all shakes itself up. Anyway, that's all I got in this episode of the Power Play with CJ. Stay tuned for episodes of the off season and beyond. Later, guys.